could you please call the roll for the purpose of attendance?
Ms. Fitzgerald? Ms. Disler? Mr. Hayden? Mr. Cirillo?
Here.
Ms. Marmel? Mr. Lamontagne?
Present. Okay. Superintendent, another great thing to do. The exceptional Reggie, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Your microphone, John, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start off this evening recognizing one of our exceptional Reggies this evening from our dental assistant program, Edgar Martinez, the exceptional Reggie of all exceptional Reggies here with us tonight. Edgar Martinez is the son of Elizabeth Burgos from Lawrence, Mass. Edgar has been a student at Greater Lawrence Technical School since September 2019. He is studying in the dental assistant career program. He is OSHA and CPR first aid certified and has extensive skills in his career area along with experience in patient care, record keeping, sterilization, infection control. Edgar is currently employed at Smile Design Dental as a dental assistant in Lawrence through our cooperative education program. Edgar would like to eventually attend dental school. I think no wonder they hired you, Edgar. They know how well you smile. Perfect name, fits you perfectly. Edgar has been successful in his academic and career area coursework at Greater Lawrence with a 4.43 GPA and is currently ranked first out of a class of 405 students in the class of 2023. Edgar is a member of the National Honor Society as a result of his outstanding academic career. Edgar has enrolled in concurrent enrollment classes with Middlesex Community College and will graduate from high school with 9 undergraduate credits. Edgar was awarded the St. Michael's High School awarded the St. Michael's College Book Award as a junior due to his outstanding academic and community service record. Edgar was selected this year to be our school's nominee and state finalist for the United States Presidential Scholar Program. Edgar has been accepted into the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy, Northeastern University, St. Michael's College, Merrimack College, University of Detroit Mercy, Curry College, University of Massachusetts Boston, University of New England, Fitchburg State University, and Worcester State University. Edgar has made contributions to our school community outside of the classroom as senior class president for the class of 2023, providing leadership for the student body. Edgar has been a Reggie leader, MIAA student ambassador, Big Future ambassador, Rising Leader mentor, and a 4-year member of our cheerleading team and team captain as a senior. Edgar has been a member of the Upward Bound and our school's chapter of Gender Sexuality Alliance. These experiences have allowed him to develop and to use his communication skills and leadership skills, which will help him into college. Edgar Martinez.
Oh, I have it, yeah. I do need to sign it, though, I'm sorry. I moved it, I didn't want to spill any soup on it.
What a resume already.
Yeah.
What are you, 18?
17.
Wow.
17? Wow.
Off the record, have you picked a school?
Kind of. I'm
No.
still waiting to hear from a few. So. Thank you so much.
I know, but, I mean, it's not, I didn't ask him anything terrible.
I'm waiting to hear from so the University of Pennsylvania and New York University.
My gosh, unbelievable.
Can you take a picture of us?
Of course.
Smile. There. Anyone else wants to join in?
Congratulations.
Come on.
Thank you.
You hold it, Edgar.
Yeah.
It's yours.
But hold on one second.
Oh, the Post-it.
Sorry,
Good idea.
sorry.
Leo, please sign.
Yeah, Leo.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Feel
It's an
mine?
honor.
Just the white.
Come on, city
City councilors,
councilors.
go ahead.
Wow.
Come on, every city
I was
council, come on.
projecting. I was projecting.
Marilyn.
Come on.
No. Good. You make me look good.
No matter what.
Oh, I'm so short.
Ready? Well, Edgar would make us all look short.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Edgar.
You make us proud.
No doubt about that.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. Chair will accept a motion to accept the minutes from March 7th, please. Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, moving on. Chair will ask at this time for a motion to adjust the agenda to student report, please.
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Maureen, you're up.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all here. Today we're going to be discussing the club, sport, and student activities for the month of March. Unfortunately, we don't have it projected, so some videos that were in the packet you won't be able to see. But everything else is in there. Okay, starting off.
Thank you for House of Athletic for an amazing 3 weeks of conditioning. They help our Reggies progress for their spring sports and did an amazing job. Students gain speed, power, strength, and mobility, as well as mindfulness and nutrition, just in time for the spring season.
All right, and our spring sports tryouts and practices have started. Upcoming this week, tomorrow we have a Merrimack baseball game and a girls softball game versus Andover High. Thursday is going to be a busy day with boys basketball versus Dracut High, girls softball versus Manchester Essex Regional High School, varsity girls track outdoor versus Lawrence High, and lastly varsity boys track outdoor versus Lawrence High. There's nothing on the schedule for Friday, but on Saturday there will be a game for varsity girls softball against Phillips Academy. And we did have an NHS candle lighting induction ceremony. That was very, very beautiful. There was a big amount of support from students, current members of NHS, the staff, and the families. 9 juniors and 44 sophomores were inducted on March 16th. A special thank you to everyone on the NHS Faculty Council who scored 102 applications each. So thank you for your hard work on that.
I wish we could show the video, but we can't because, of course, it's not projected. But our Reggies have talent. Our Let's Get Loud talent show was a big hit thanks to our singers, dancers, and musicians, and the support, students, staff, included the stage, and the show was absolutely amazing.
All right, and on that, the next page there was a video. Hopefully we'll be able to show it at the end of the presentation. But on the next piece of paper, we've had many banquets for our winter sports, and there's some photos of our Reggies celebrating all their hard work this past season. There are photos from girls basketball, winter track, and hockey, but a big thank you and congratulations to all the students who have participated.
We had door decorating for Black History Month. We have a good, healthy competition, so we held a door decorating contest for Black History Month, and our Reggies were very creative. Students voted on their favorite, and the top 3 were first place, biotechnology, second place, cosmetology, third place, health assisting. We had national African American read-in launches 1 and 3 in the library. At the beginning of the month, during launch 1 through 3, when there was a special poetry event honoring Black History Month that took place in the library. Students and staff could head or listen to poetry written by Black authors. They also enjoyed cookies made by our culinary students.
All right, and that concludes the end of our presentation. Thank you all for your time and attention. Hopefully we could take a look at those videos now. It was just a short clip. I'm sorry. Yeah, this one's also short as well. It's only like 6 or 7 seconds. Unfortunately, they're only short videos because I was having a great time at that talent show. It was definitely a lot of fun, and if you want to see more, hopefully there's another one next year. We would love to see you there. But that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for our students reps? Mr. Hayden?
Maureen, I don't know if he did, but I didn't catch the young man's name. Can he introduce himself, please?
Jason Mora. Nice to meet you all.
Very good. Mrs. Fitzgerald?
I was wondering if our most talented Reggie faculty participated, namely was Mr. Middleton there this year?
Oh yeah, he was great.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Do you have any questions for us? Thank you very much. A very nice report as always. Okay, going back to the regular order of business. Mr. DeStefano, a cash balance report, please.
Sure. Cash balance report as of March 21st, 2023. Account balance on February 27th, 2023 was $4,370,080, spot 58. We had deposits from February 28th to March 21st, $1,479,415.77. We had transfer out to MMDT of $2 million. Less payroll on March 2nd of $1,103,054.27. Small payroll on March 10th, 2358.51. Payroll on March 16th of $1,023,898.77. Warrant number 34 on February 28th of $664,716.50. Warrant number 35 on March 7th, $203,761.15. Leaves us with a book balance on March 21st of $851,707.15 and a corresponding bank balance on the same date of $1,880,237.21. In our MMDT account, as of February 27th, the balance is $9,331,372.43. Year-to-date interest is $172,131.79. We had the transfer of $2 million from the Eastern Maine account. Interest for February was $34,664,22. And an overall MMDT balance on March 21st of $11,538,168.44, and a total operating cash balance of $12,389,875.59.
Chair will accept the motion as presented. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Handout is a consolidated cash reconciliation report, revolving fund report in the packet, budget report in the packet. And Mrs. Martell, you handed out the budget books. Do we need to elaborate on that at all? No? Budget books? You already have a question? Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes, I had a question about one of the warrant, not warrant articles, but one of the things in the warrant.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is that all right to?
Sure, yep.
Okay. I did have a question about an $11,670 payment to Eleanor Stafford. If I could have an explanation of who she is or what she does, and for how long of service is that 11,000?
John? Who's the best to answer that?
Yeah, Eleanor.
Your mic, please.
Eleanor's been working with us since the beginning of the school year. She was hired as a support coach. She's a coach. We have 3 coaches. She's one of our curriculum coaches, and also she's the one that writes does the biweekly newsletter, school newsletter. She's the one that does the writing for that. She's also rewriting, doing all the writing for our new web page. And I'm not sure what the actual, she also is doing a grant for, works also with all our new teachers and helping them pass the VTEL. Any of the staff members who are working on that, helps them also with their licensure work. She does work there. So she also coaches teachers on curriculum and instruction. I'm trying to think what else she does. She's also overseeing, working with me closely on the strategic plan. That's one of her projects this year. She's basically helping me facilitate that, getting a lot of the committees organized, that kind of work. She's doing a lot of that as well. She has been doing, she's got a grant. I don't know if the 11,000 foot was to work for the grant. Was that the work for, do you know what that exact PO was for, Melissa? I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me here. Is that her that's her oh, yeah, so that's probably what she's making approximately around $80,000 a year, so that might have been her monthly salary, part of her monthly salary.
Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes, I guess I would follow that up. I just don't remember the position when it was either posted or was it a contract? So it's more than a 1-year contract?
It's a 2-year contract.
2-year contract.
Yep.
And is she with a company or is she her own coaching
She's a
company?
consultant, her own
Consultant.
consultant. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything further? Anything further? You sure?
Part of her pay also comes from a grant that she's, the money, Frank had gotten us a grant last year for about 40,000. Of that money, she's been, that's what we've been using for her work that she's been doing, tutoring and coaching new staff to help them get past the VTEL and work on helping them get their licensure.
Okay, we all set to move on? Okay, donations, we have a 2003 Chevy Trailblazer valued at $4,375 donated by Alexander Ames from Methuen, Mass. I see no articles, no public participation. The great student report we already got. Admission report, Superintendent, please.
So you have in front of you the admissions report based on each community and each school, how many students were applicants we have had. So if you look at Lawrence, there was 959 students from Lawrence, 290 students from Methuen, 29 from North Andover, and I missed Andover, there was 24 from Andover, for a total of 1,316. This was as of 3/2/23. And then the next page shows.
Excuse me, Don, 1 second, I'm sorry. Mrs. Fitzgerald had a question.
Yep.
Yes, I have another question. I realize that not all of these schools are within our district. And for instance, St. Augustine's, which is in Andover, but you can live anywhere and go to that school. So I know that when the records come, they come from the sending school. But some of these are also out of state. And how do we know that that person is moving into our district in order to be accepted into our school? Or if they are in fact already living in the district, but they, for whatever reason, go out of state to school?
So anyone that's out of, that, in their application, they have to identify where they live, and if they're moving into the district, they have to provide proof of that. What are the different ways we ask them to provide proof, Brenda? Oh, you can use this microphone.
Okay.
You can please share over here.
I'll move to that side. Thank you.
Just so make sure everyone knows, Brenda Richardson, who is Director of Admissions and Guidance, for those who might have forgotten who she was. She's here also to talk a little bit about another issue that's going to come up.
Thank you. So when we do receive an application for a student and they're attending a school in another district, we always make sure that they are actually living in one of our 4 sending communities. So, there was actually a higher number, I think, than usual this year of both out of state and, just outside of the district, mostly Haverhill. So we always look into those situations before we actually accept the application. So in some situations, it could be that a student has 2 parents. One parent lives in New Hampshire. They're currently living in that school, but the other parent is living in our district. So then, we ask for their proof of address if that's the case. And also, in some situations, it might even be their legal custody paperwork, because it is supposed to be a student who has, or a family that has split custody. We've had, situations with students who are homeless, who are temporarily housed outside of the district, and according to McKinney-Vento, they actually have a right to stay in the district and the sending community, and they can actually apply to both. So say if it's a student who's living in Haverhill, they actually have a right, if they're originally from our community, to apply here or to Whittier. So we do sort of dig into that just to make sure that they are actually, living in the district.
Continue, John, please.
If you look at the next page, it lists the total applicants we've had up to this year, at this point, for 2027 class of 1,467 applicants. And it's broken down by community. If you look down at the bottom of the page, you can see how it's broken down by different community.
Excuse me, John. Frank?
Brenda, I've been noticing, and to my extreme pleasure, an increase in the student body of from Methuen. Are we doing anything different that we haven't done before, or is it what has sparked the more applications for Methuen?
So I am not entirely sure. We definitely have tried more outreach. We did have a parent Zoom meeting in addition to going out to all of the schools. We did receive some email addresses this year from the districts, including Methuen, which we have not in the past. And I think having access to that information has made a big difference. So, we want to try to continue to get the email addresses. So just having that contact information. And typically we do get to present to all of the students in the 8th grade and some 7th grade as well. So I think that really helps. And I also think, students who are involved in local organizations like Spartan Football and, those other connections, I think that's also had an impact.
Good. Continue, John, please.
And that completes that report.
Good. Any other questions for the superintendent or for Brenda? Thank you very much. Are you saying she had another issue that,
The enrollment process.
oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
I think that the committee had last week some questions on the enrollment process. So it's included again in this week's report.
So you're open for questions?
Open for questions on the enrollment
Any
package.
questions for either the superintendent or for Brenda on the enrollment?
You received all the letters and communication that we have with the parents when we accept students or when we deny students that we shared with you. I didn't know if anyone had any questions regarding those communications.
Yeah, Zoila?
So I do have questions on the letters. And we spoke about the dates that were shown in the letters. So the letters sent to the applicants that are put in the waiting list, which is the first one, right, on the packet.
Yes.
So it says, that they were going to be sent second round of admissions in the near, and acceptance in the near future. So I believe that we spoke about this already. That should be a date there when they are expected to receive another round. Because near future could be anything, or they probably never gonna get any communication. So that's one. At the end of that sentence, it also says that, okay, can you answer that first and then we'll continue?
Sure. We don't have, once we send out that initial round of acceptances, we don't have a specific date that we're sending out the second round because it really depends on the response that we get from the applicants that we do accept. So I know that there was a concern previously about the language where we said, we want people to respond within 10 days. We are trying to encourage people to respond as soon as possible, exactly for this reason, because we know people are anxious to get off of the waiting list. But even once, so we send out the letters, we send out the information, and we wait well after 10 days, well after 2 weeks, more like 3. And then anybody that we don't hear from, we then start calling and emailing and trying to get a response. So as of this time, I can tell you that we have 3 out of the 514 students that we accepted, we have 366 who have committed, 75 who withdrew after they were accepted, and we're still waiting for 73. So we try to wait for as many of those as we can so that we can send out another, larger round of acceptances. Sure. Did you need me to repeat any of that? Yes. Yes. Right. Right. And possibly more. We still have 73 that we're waiting to hear from. So that's why we don't provide an exact date, because we just don't know how long it will take us to get to all of those families.
I got you there, but then that you have in the acceptance letter, there's a date where the ninth graders are going to take an exam, which is May 6th. So you already have dates where you have commitment. I believe you need to have a date there. And actually, I'm not asking for it. I'm asking for a date to be put there, because you guys have a guideline of when things need to happen. So a date there should be put in. And I understand what you're saying, waiting a little longer, then you should factor that into the dates to add in there. Because it's just, I feel this is a hole. And people are not gonna get response when they're supposed to be getting response again. And actually, this letter says that they are going to get a notification when everything is all set. That doesn't have a date either. But again, I'm sure that they probably don't even get anything. Yes.
Just to respond to their second round, that we do a second round, I don't believe we notify parents when we're starting that second round of acceptances. They could, yes, we don't, in the letter, we're not telling them they'll hear from us. We'll do a second round, but they don't hear from us when we're doing that second round. The only way they're going to know there was a second round is if we notify them that they were now taken off the wait list and been accepted. Other than that, they're not going to know any specific time frame.
Right, and if I could just speak to that. So I think the only way that we could really do that and come up with a date and stick to that date would be to have an absolute cutoff. So if somebody doesn't respond by a particular date that we set, if we don't hear from them by then we would move on the list. But unfortunately, I know that we would have lots of families who were still interested who just, for whatever reason, hadn't responded yet. And we do worry about that being sort of an equity and access issue in some ways for a variety of reasons. But I feel like if we were to set a date for that second round, we would really have to set a final date on that first round, and we do try to reach out to families as much as possible. Like I said, we call, we email, and then ultimately we send a letter, because we're trying to give everybody every opportunity to respond. But if that's a decision moving forward, we can certainly consider that. I think we just have to be prepared for the impact on the other side with somebody who missed that deadline, and we would just have to be prepared to respond to that.
Deadline, because again, we have a waiting list. So we have almost 1,700 applications for 400 and some seats. We should have a specific days when responses are coming back to us so that we can place those people that are waiting. And again, it's just not having dates there, it's not gonna give you that. So unfortunately, I understand that people take longer to respond, but that is their problem. There is a waiting list of people that are waiting to hear from us, and they deserve that opportunity as well. So if you don't have dates, you're waiting for what? That's my position, and I believe that day is necessary there, just because of what I just said. Again, we are a committee. There's a decision made in, like Mr. Chair said, it has to be four friends or more, right? But I believe we need to have that set. And because we have commitment days, and we have too many people waiting. We just have too many people waiting.
Excuse me, Zoila, one
Yes.
second. John, Superintendent wanted to say something.
So I just want to address that. So I would be happy to sit down with Brenda, the director, to look at this particular situation. And, we could pick a date, might be a lot further out than people might like us. So, if we anticipate, usually, let's say we say, well, it usually takes us 3 weeks, we may put out that, all right, we're going to look at, we may hold off and put it out there 5 weeks and not look at them for at least 5 weeks. But we'll look at it and see what makes sense in terms of trying to come up with a second date. Maybe there's another approach where when we do start the second round, we could advertise it in the on our website or in our school newsletter or something like that to notify everyone out there that we are going to be looking at a second round of acceptances. If you're accepted, you'll hear from us within the next week or 2 weeks or something like that, just so they're not waiting forever. We can look at that and see if we can come out with something that makes sense, that you feel that you would be comfortable with.
So I know that there's many applicants that are put on the waiting list that had no clue whether they need some type of documentation or anything. I know here is a paragraph that says that if there are documents that they need to provide, that they need to request an appeal within 30 days. I mean, again, I'm hoping and I want to see, or I want to know if you have a process where the people that, the applicants that actually need some type of documentation, that they are being told what do they need, because this letter, again, is too vague and it doesn't say anything. For example, I have a student that a parent, concerned parent that called me the other day because, their kids were devastated because they couldn't get into the school. Having two sisters already here, which are, one of them is a Reggie, Exceptional Reggie, thank you. And the kid, it has high honor, just like his sisters. And the only problem that he has is some attendance because of COVID and all that. So I'm sure they didn't know that because this letter doesn't say anything. Hopefully they already helped because I did spoke to somebody in the admission office, but that's a concern that I have, and I still have a concern because this letter doesn't say anything for those particular applicants that are put on the waiting list.
So situations like you're talking about there, Zoila, that's why we have an appeals process. So there are lots of situations like because of mental health or COVID or something like that that impacted their attendance, that shows that they had a lot of absenteeism and that hurt them in getting in. They lost a lot of points. So in an appeal process, we would have a conversation with the parents and talk about what it is going forward that they would need to do in order to get accepted. So, we try to work with the parents. If they had great grades and everything else looked great, but the issue was attendance that hurt them a lot, that really impacted their opportunity to be accepted. That's why we'd have an appeal. We bring in we do accept students who have those exceptions after we've had a conversation and a sit down with the parents.
I'm not questioning the process that we're doing because I believe we are helping those people, but that's when they already know. But my point is, how do they know what they're missing or what they're lacking of? Because unless they have parents that are actually on top of their students and they want to know and they look and call people like they call me, they call us, they will not get answers. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't have a process for it. If people come and ask, but it's before they come and ask, how do they know?
So I would say, well, first, I can understand why they would call you, but the answer really for them is that the answer that you should always give them is to contact the school, because we really can't give information to anybody other than the parents. So I would ask that everybody encourage the parents to call the school to ask for an appeal, because that's when they find out. So we don't give out every single student the information of why they may not, that they're put on the wait list. And so if they feel as though there was an exception, and we do say if there's an exception, something exceptional that we should be considering, that they should request an appeal so they can come in and have a conversation with us. I believe the letter articulates that.
I will agree with Zoila. Mine's going to be a two-part question. Brenda, if we put a hard date, how would that affect people that want to appeal?
So we don't want to be filling all of the spots while we're still dealing with ongoing appeals, because you know you're potentially holding up spots for families that do want to appeal. So it's also, you know, that's where you have that balance. You're kind of, you know, estimating. And realistically, it truly should be a very small number of people who appeal, because it's, you know, those extenuating circumstances that sort of go beyond. And it's more than, you know, typically just a few absences or a week or something due to COVID or something like that. We're also very clear with the middle schools and the records that they submit. So there's a spot on the counselor recommendation form where if there is a known extenuating circumstance that impacted that student, they'll fill it out right there on the application. So what happens is anybody can call to find out where they lost points and then try to find some way, some avenue to make up for those lost points that more often than not do not constitute an extenuating circumstance. So if somebody wants to even look at their, you know, their score, if they understand, if they're looking at the grades and looking at the attendance, any parent can request their students' records from the middle school, and they can see for themselves how many excused and unexcused absences there are. But if somebody does call, we'll certainly give them that information. But the appeals process does sort of hold up us being able to go and turn around and fill every spot and send out more acceptances, because we don't want to over-accept. So it's sort of that balance.
So, thank you. So a couple of the calls I've gotten. One, the word extenuating circumstances, even if they do have it, they automatically, they don't know if they have that. So it turns them off from trying to appeal. The other biggest complaint I've been getting is failure response from the sending school. And the school is not sending the records, the parents can't get a hold of them, and they've talked to them, or they try to set meetings, and it's become difficult for them to get the records sent over to the school. So to me, I mean, and if they could have a extenuating circumstance, but they don't know that. And it's hard for them to find, sometimes it's hard for them to get the information they need to appeal, because they also don't know what it is they should be appealing, or if they should be appealing. So, I mean, to me, the extenuating circumstance, I don't know, maybe it's looking at what kind of words we could use different, but besides flooding your office with millions of questions, because I'm pretty sure we all get millions of questions from people all the time.
Right, so in the letter, we did try to give examples of what an extenuating circumstance is, and I think these are really, this typically does capture, so special education referral, so if there's a student who was referred for special education and they hadn't previously been receiving services, medical and mental health issues, homelessness and foster care, those are typically the most common extenuating circumstances. So we did try to add that language so it wasn't just completely vague, but I'm certainly open to, you know, any other suggestions in terms of the language that we could use.
Yes. Do we have a specific number of special education applicants that get accepted, or it's just the part of the whole number?
Yeah, it's a blind admissions process, so students can voluntarily identify if they're a special ed student or an English learner, but that does not come into the admissions formula. Yeah, there's not a certain percentage.
So, back to the question that Mr. Cirillo asked, if I got it correctly. So this letter says the 30 days appeal. They had 30 days for appealing. The ones that were accepted, they had 10 days to get back, right? To receive the acceptance package. I'm not sure if that, I don't know how that relates. 10 days versus 30, I'm not sure. Can you help me figure that out?
So I'm not sure if I can answer this in a way that would make sense. So there's really not a direct connection between the two. It's just really with the 10 days, we're just really trying to encourage families to respond as soon as possible so we can continue to go down and access students from the wait list. We thought that we could say 10 days, you have 10 days to appeal. But we thought that 30 days was more generous. And, as we know that some people have questions about that, they're not sure that they understand. So I think it gives families a greater opportunity than saying you have 10 days to respond, you have 10 days to appeal. If we did 10 days to appeal, people would probably be very upset about that.
With you there, because the 10 days it's just not enough. Some people don't read their mail until, who knows, 15 days after, so this is gonna be late. 10 days for me is not enough, but again, we need to move on the waiting list, so it has two-way here. Again, it's just the dates again. I mean, I do have a concern on the dates. It says that, like I mentioned before, the ninth graders are gonna have a placement test on May 6, 2023, which is very clear. Then they're going to get additional information on a later date. We should have a date when they're gonna get information because they need to get ready, right? So I have a problem with the dates. If you can work on that and fix it or get it to a better understanding. I still going to express my concern because I done it before and I want to do it again. We have an opened receiving application concept, and so many applicants and so little seats available. I think we're setting ourselves for failing in that respect, and I'm concerned there. So I think we should have, and again, I'm just saying something that I already mentioned before. We should have due dates when we're not taking more applications and dates going forward to when we're gonna start, when we're gonna end, and all that set. Because it's just too, I know we are working towards getting more space and more programs and more to accommodate so many applicants, but we're not there yet. We're not gonna get there anytime soon. So we should at least take care of how we get applications in, because we cannot accommodate everybody that wants to come in. That's a problem. And we need to figure out how to fix it now, and then when we are able to, and we can take all 1,600, 1,700, 2,000 applicants, then we'll get back to that whole, year-round receiving applications.
Brenda, you said there was a small number of appeals. What's a small number?
So I said there should be a small number of appeals. Last year, I would say probably 50 maybe requests the year before that, or the pandemic year. I remember we had, that just kind of kept going. We had close to 100. That was just a crazy year. But, I would say 50, 60, and that's a lot.
So just hearing those numbers, to me, it just further highlights that the issue stems from the initial application process. So if the appeal process should be a low number, if you should only be receiving a low number, then that just tells me that had we have a deadline from the onset of the application process, we wouldn't be seeing ourselves in an issue with so many appeals. But because we leave it as an open enrollment all year round, accepting applications, then you're more than likely going to receive a lot more appeals because we are putting a lot more students on the waiting list. And because of the letters, and I'm going to be referencing probably the letters that we were sending out a year ago, because I'm assuming the letters that we're seeing right now, adjustments were made. Especially in kind of giving an example of what extenuating circumstances mean. But that's probably why the years prior, these letters being sent out to parents, it's vague, and it just continuously would further validate why parents are going to appeal, because they don't know everybody's going to appeal, because they think that they have a chance to either convince the school, the department, there's something, some information that was missing in order to get their child accepted. So I'm gonna have to agree with Zoila in the sense of, at least during the initial application process, like the first application being submitted, there needs to be a deadline. Because just accepting applications all year round, you're just gonna see yourself in a pickle in terms of high numbers of appeals.
First of all, Brenda, I know when I reach out to your office, you always respond, so I gotta say thank you for that. And a lot of the appeals is because a lot of kids in the 8th grade hear about the vote. They don't realize that what they did in the 7th grade affects their grades coming in. And it does. So that's one of the things that we could eliminate, is we could start having a conversation with a lot of kids in the 6th grade level to let them know that if they're thinking of coming to GLTS, what happens in the 7th grade year is going to affect their process coming in. And a lot of the kids that I've seen have had that issue where in the 7th grade they've had absences or whatever it was, that then all of a sudden they hear about GLTS. In the 8th grade, now they've turned it around, but the 8th grade doesn't count as much as the 7th grade level does. Do I agree with closed dates? No, because then we're eliminating a lot of kids that can apply. But we do have a wait list problem, and looking to expand, and Zoila's right, it's not going to happen in the next 6 months. It's going to take a lot of work, and not just from us, but from our ascending communities, because we're going to have conversations with them about, and legislation that needs to be changed in order for that to start happening, which will affect a lot of things moving forward. But I think just if we start at the 6th grade level compared to the 8th grade and the 7th grade, that start alleviating some of that issue.
No, I would agree with that, and would love to get into the middle schools and start, speaking with students towards the end of the 6th grade. I think if we went too early, when they're talking about 9th grade, that's a lifetime away for them in their young lives. But yes, certainly, we want the 7th graders early on to know, how important that year is. And some schools do give access to 7th and 8th graders, which is great.
I think the commissioner said that all superintendents had to give access for vocational schools to go into the schools, and if they're not, then they could be a violation. Don't quote me on that, but I'll ask that in the next meeting.
Vivian?
I'm for educating the students as early as 6th, 7th, 5th grade for all that matter, but it does not alleviate the issue. The numbers are not going to change as to the amount of applications that we receive, whether they are getting straight A's as of 6th grade going forward. We're still going to continuously receive a high number of applications every year, especially with the new programs that we have coming in. Best believe we're going to have even more students wanting to apply to attend this school. So it does not alleviate the amount of seats that we could only offer. And we're going to continue to see this issue because we allow for this, for a non-deadline. Applications are just going to come in, and parents are going to continue to appeal because they, as parents, as any parent, they're going to fight for their student to have a seat at the school. So we need to figure out, we need to definitely figure out how to resolve the issue, or at least alleviate until we can come up with certain initiatives to expand in the near future.
Anything further? Okay, I heard a lot of good things going on both sides of the table, but where do we stand? What are we going to do? Are we going to ask the administration to come back with us with a revised letter with dates, or what do you think, John? I mean, a lot of good things were said, but...
I would say that if you forward it to myself and the admissions director, we'll sit down, look at the dates, and we'll come back and make some final recommendations to you whether what we're doing is the appropriate way. But we'll engage some of our sending communities as well in the conversation to get some input from them in terms of where they sit with some of the dates and the issues and the challenges that are out there. So we'll reach out, do some data collection, and then we'll come back to the school committee with some answers or things that we found out in reaching out to our community leaders, our principals that are out there, and our superintendent. I do meet with the superintendents every year when we first start this process to talk about, to ensure that we're able to see all of their students, and they've all been actually very accommodating. In fact, they've been, I think, improving. Commissioner has put out a Department of Ed and the Board of Education has stated that all students should have access to hearing about opportunities in the vocational schools. So, and since that has happened, we've seen a better response from some of our schools. So we're encouraged by, but I would agree with Frank in particular with regards to at least having an opportunity to talk to all 7th graders early in the process can make a difference for some kids. Sure. And maybe we could look at sending out some communication to parents of 7th graders as well. If we could get their email addresses of 7th and 8th graders, then we could communicate with those parents at an earlier date, so we can talk and look at that as well. Because we can only reach out to in many cases, to the parents and students that we have for 8th graders. We get their addresses and their emails in order to invite them to open house and other communications for 8th graders. So if we could receive early 7th graders, then we could start that process sooner too. So in my communication with the superintendents and principals, as we continue to look at this process, I'll request that as well.
Is the second meeting in April, second meeting in April too soon, or do you think you can get back to us by then? It's like 5 weeks away, I think.
Sure, I can at least come back with some, where we're at in that process.
Okay, thank you. Huh? Yeah, we're going to have to, yes, the special meeting, but Vivian, sorry.
Out of curiosity, have we always operated in terms of enrollment? Was there ever a deadline at one point and we changed the policy on that? And if so, why?
We did not always have everybody on the wait list. We did deny, but it was encouraged by the Department of Ed not to do that.
Deny. In application process, was there a deadline at one point? And
yes, there was deadlines at one point, but we used to always continue to get applications after the fact, and we would accept them. So enrollment, and then it became very difficult to work with the issue of having a specific deadline and then getting another 200 applications after that. And so in order to give people more time, we found that, and also there were opportunities. Kids sometimes don't make a decision until later in their 8th grade, and they say, oh, I want to go to Gray Lawrence Tech. So we feel like it's equitable. It's more equitable to leave the door open to all for students. And so I think, and that was always encouraged as a equity issue. So that's one of the reasons why we opened it up to roll enrollment, continual enrollment.
Yeah, I know I'm a genius. This idea just came up to, just came to me. I don't know if it will work, but what if we had a deadline and then still allow for applications after the deadline and kind of have a separate letter letting those parents know that this application has been received after the deadline. However, if any open seats have become available, that they would be taken into consideration or be put in the pool. But those parents that did the due diligence of submitting the applications and the documentation within the deadline, those are the ones that we should kind of be focusing on, and probably alleviates a lot of the headaches that your department has, and it will be a lot less appeals. And if we have more open seats available, then that's when we'll open the doors for applications that were submitted after the fact. If that works, I want my 10%.
I can say I do know one school that did that in the past. I don't know if that's still their practice. So regardless of their score, even if they applied late, even if they had a perfect score, they would go to the bottom of the list. So that's certainly, that's something that would be discussed as part of the admissions policy that this committee approves. The only thing that I just wanted to add about having that cutoff date, and again, it's up to the committee to approve the policy, but one of the biggest things that the Department of Education is looking to do is to open up access. So if we were to have a hard cutoff, say, late fall, early winter, then we would be, that would be a disadvantage to anybody who would be potentially a newcomer. And they're looking at our number of English learners and, access for English learners and newcomers. So that would be a disadvantage to those applicants. So I'm just putting that out there as a point of, just discussion in terms of the, looking at the policy and making sure that it is equitable.
Frank?
Thank you, Brenda. You just reminded me of that conversation. If we put a hard deadline, we could be in violation of Department of Ed's rules, putting a hard deadline on the application process. And I know the commission is looking for, make sure that we're making it equitable. And I know other schools in the Commonwealth, other vocational schools are in trouble for that same thing.
Anything, Zoila?
I have a last comment. I do have another family that call, and that's why I asked the question about the special education numbers. Their student, all of the students that are with him, como se dice, compañeros, los compañeros, the classmates, they were accepted, but he was not accepted. He has good grades and good attendance and everything. So do they need to just call for an appeal? Is that what I need to tell them?
They could certainly call. I don't know if it's somebody that we've spoken to or not yet, but they can certainly call and ask, what the score was, what the breakdown was, and where the student lost points. And we can talk about whether there is, some basis for an appeal. Just a student being on an IEP, that in itself is not a basis for an appeal, but there could be something else that is relevant to that. So they could certainly call, and we could talk to them.
I know they haven't called because they're waiting for me to get back to them.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, so second week in April, we'll tackle it again. Thank you very much, brother. Oh, I'm sorry. What's
Brenda's here for this next issue.
next issue?
Concussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the concussion policy. I don't know.
I think that's what. Brenda was here for, isn't it?
I was on the policy committee, but I was not planning to speak to the concussion policy this evening. That was Mary.
Nari, that's right, she came last time. Okay.
I'll,
then we should be-
I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Should be all
I don't
set,
think we
thank.
voted on it, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you're good, Brenda.
We're all set, thank you very much.
We're gonna blame you for that policy.
Oh, pretty soon we'll have you parking cars. Okay, concession policy, superintendent?
So, you received the
Concussion, I'm sorry.
Concussion, you
Concussion
received the
policy,
concussion
sorry.
policy last week. but-
Pardon me.
But felt as though you needed more time to review it before voting on it, so we still need the committee to vote on that concussion policy that was
Have a
presented to
motion
you.
on it, please? I don't
Brenda.
have it under table matters. No, I said I don't have it under table matters. I'm not saying it was.
Just in case I have a question on this, because you were on.
I'm
the
sorry, I
table.
don't have it under table matters. It was tabled before?
Yeah,
Okay.
we discussed it last meeting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it was tabled, but okay, we'll put it off for now then.
Oh, you want to put it off?
Right, we're not down to table matters in the agenda though. Okay,
Oh.
we're not down to table matters in the agenda. Classroom space for new programs,
We're
Superintendent.
all set then, Brenda. Thanks.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, sorry.
In terms of the concussion, I thought that it was removed from a vote last time, just so that we would have more time to study it, and that it was supposed to be on the agenda for a vote tonight. That was my.
We'll vote on it under table
Okay.
matters. If they, I don't
Oh.
have it here under table matters myself.
I have it on my, as part of my report.
Right, I understand that, but
Okay.
they're saying that it has to, legally it has to come off the table to be.
Oh, okay.
thing. Okay, let's move down. Classroom space for new programs, please.
Okay, so in terms of classroom space for new programs, so we have 3 new programs, and then we also need space for academic teachers as well, because having 3 new programs will allow us to bring in somewhere between approximately 45 new students, which will have an impact on our academic scheduling. But in terms of the space for the new programs, the aviation, so right now, we're in the process of hiring an architect to do the final design work on the 3 spaces that we initially gave the architect to look at, which is a shop space for the aviation program for the 4 years, and then a shop space for programming for 4 years, and of course, childcare, early childhood education, which we have that space already. But in the interim, we need to have a space for 9th graders next year in order to get the final approval for the program. So the program today, we got word from the Department of Education that those 3 programs have been accepted to move forward for next year, pending a visit to look at the freshman space, which they will do in the early May. So, so it's been approved to move forward, and actually, the only thing left to do really is have them come and inspect the space for safety. So we're all set with those 3 programs to move forward and plan for them for next year. So in terms of the space, for aviation 9th grade, we are going to put the aviation 9th grade in where carpentry 11-12 is now, which is next to the horticulture program down below in the construction area on the corner of as you make the turn to come up the hill under the tunnel, there's a corner shop there, which is the carpentry 11th and 12th graders. They are moving in with the 10th graders who has excess space. They are rarely in their space because they do outside projects. So for instance, this year they're working in 3 different projects outside of here. Next year we have a request to build 3 different houses. So we're trying to do 1 next year, and 1 the following, and 1 the 3rd year, working with different organizations for that. So they'll be building a house next year. So in terms of 11th and 12th grade, we can put them there is a home for when they first come in the morning. That's where they meet and organize where their work for the day. And then that'll open up the 9th, the 11th and 12th grade carpentry shop. We will we've already started actually preparing it for the aviation 9th grade shop until we build a new addition, which we hope to have done a year from September. So that gives us about a year and almost a half to get the 4-year program space built and in place. So that takes care of the aviation program. We are also still continuing to try to either purchase or lease or have access to the hangar out at the Lawrence Airport. We've come to a few roadblocks on that, but we're working on getting that resolved. So, and then we're also putting up a building here for that on-site shop as well. Then the next program, which is programming, we are going to, for the 9th grade program, we are going to put the 9th grade, and probably 9th, 10th, and 10th grade program up in the mezzanine area, which is up on the 3rd floor, so that'll be a shop space. We did use it for a while for science, but the problem with having science up there is that we had continual student going up to the 3rd floor. Which was a problem. So rather than have ongoing students going up and down, once they get up in their shop, they stay there. So it's not a problem of having kids going up to the 3rd floor there. We meet all the regulations in terms of safety, alarms, security, everything. So it is an acceptable space for programming. Department of Ed will also come and inspect that. It's also been inspected by the building inspector and all that in the years past to use it for educational space. And will be, and we've also gotten a letter of acceptance from the building inspector, which we had to provide Department of Ed to use that space as well, and as well as aviation. We had to send that in with our application.
I have a question. Does the elevator access that?
Yes,
It
there's
does?
an elevator, so that provides
All right.
handicap access. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've been up there.
And then our childcare program obviously is brand new and has already ready to go and built. So then the question remains, where would we get some more classroom space? So we're looking at, I think we put in the budget, I believe we put in the budget, but there's some, Sue wasn't sure if we did or not. Maybe Melissa will remember. If we didn't, we'll revisit anyway. 3 new academic teachers, 1 for history, science, and math. Yeah, I think we put that, I'm almost positive we did. But anyways, we'll need 3 more classrooms for that space. And there are 3 possible classrooms down in the construction area. There's 1 classroom space over by the cafeteria, and there's also another classroom space near IT, so that's 5 different possibilities for classroom space that we're working on preparing and getting ready for classrooms next year. Down in the construction area. So you say, all right, where are those 3 spaces down in the construction area? So where the 11th and 12th grade carpentry students were, we're putting aviation, but there's also enough space to put 2 classrooms down there. We have to take a wall down that has storage for electrical, but we're moving electrical across the way to another space, so that will allow us to build 2 classrooms down there in the future. And then there's also another space that used to house low voltage electrical. We can put another classroom space there. Then up by the cafeteria, there's another space up there, which used to be, we had in there the mail room, and so we're going to expand that space to be able to have another classroom up there. And then IT has, there's a classroom down by IT also that will be available next year. So that would give us up to 5 classroom spaces. One of them small, but can have a small classroom. And there's still a couple other spaces we're looking at that we can make changes and adjustments to.
Excuse me, John. Mr. Cirillo?
Yeah, thank you. Where in the budget do we put in for the 3 extra teachers?
For the what?
For 3 extra teachers you just said. That's one question.
Where in the budget, Joe?
And we need 3, so did we not talk about the 3 academic? We didn't put 3 academic in there? All right, so we'll revisit it. We'll find, we'll be able to make adjustments. We'll add them just to make sure they're in there. I thought we did put them in there, we talked about it, but if we miss it, that's my fault. So I'll go back and revisit it again with you, Melissa.
And the other question, John, could you give us like a little floor plan or something where all these classes are gonna be? I'm more of a visual person.
I'll bring the school blueprint with me next meeting, so I can point them out on the blueprint. I have a full set of the school print, and I can highlight highlight those exact spots for you, so you can see it.
You keep talking about this 3rd floor, and I know Leo knows where it is, Sue knows where it is, but I can't even picture where a 3rd floor in this building is.
Okay.
You don't want to. Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes, I guess my concern is that we're trying to play catch-up, and last summer, we got ourselves in a real mess by taking on so many projects that included construction that they were not completed when they were supposed to be, and we're still working on some of them. So are we looking to do this in-house, or are we looking to bring contractors in to do this so it can all be done at one time? I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think it's where it is in the budget, I don't know. But I'm just concerned again that school will open and kids aren't in the spaces they're supposed to be in. So I think the floor plan that we asked about or I had asked about at the last meeting, where these were going to go, I just don't want us to be in the mess we were in this September with the products we needed not here and the spaces not completed. I think that would be unfair 2 years in a row to our students to have that happen.
So the aviation for 9th grade has to be ready by the 2nd week of May, so we're already started that. That will be ready. The space for programming has to be ready for the 2nd week of May. That'll be ready. We've already started that, but those are not major jobs. They're basically for the aviation space. It's a matter of moving some staging that's in that space and putting up a wall, and then splitting the space in half, and then we have 2 classrooms. So we'll have 2 classrooms with a matter of putting up some walls, doing some electrical work. It's all minor construction, nothing major. Once we put up the walls, we have to do some wiring, electrical wiring, because they're already educational space. It's just splitting up the space in a different way by adding some partitions. And up in the mezzanine area, the same thing. It's a matter of adding a partition, and then of course ordering computers, which we've furniture, which we've already ordered. Furniture either went in today or is going in tomorrow. I know that Lance has touched base with Melissa on that already. So that's in the works. We have to order all the computers. We had a conversation today up in the mezzanine looking at the space with, Jason was up there with Lance and myself looking at how we're going to wire the space for all the technology we need up there. So IT will be working on that. The custodians today moved a lot of equipment out of there to open up the space. So we're already in progress in getting all that space ready and prepared. The classroom space, those are all minimal. It's really just a partition and doing some painting and moving some doorways, and those will be done before the end of the school year as well. So all of these spaces will be done before the end of the school year. They're not big construction projects, so they won't impact any of our bigger projects that we're looking at that will be long-term projects. The bigger projects we're looking at not doing anything in-house, but putting out an RFP. We're in the process of trying to select a engineer and architect do the final design work. And then once that's done, we can put it out on the streets. Those are projects that will be put on the street, and then hiring contractors for the most part. Some of the, a little some of it, we'll be subcontracting some of it, but we won't be doing the work itself until the structures are totally up, and then we may do a little bit of the electrical or something like that. I know in the, in one area, we might be doing a little bit of HVAC, but most of the work should be done by contractors, not by us, as we did on the other projects. And then none of those projects we need for September, but we don't need it for until a year from September. The only ones we really need for upcoming school year is the 3 new shops for the 9th grade and the 3 or 4 classrooms that we need for the new academic teachers we may have. We're not totally convinced whether we need 3, 2, or 4. We're still trying. We're just doing. Isabel's working on the schedule now to make that final decision on whether we need another ELA teacher, another math teacher, and another science teacher. Once she completes that, then we'll know for sure. But it looks like we're going to need 1 for each of those content areas. Our preliminary data shows that.
Okay. You all set, Marilyn? No. Okay.
That last final thing, so the very last thing you were talking about with outside contractors and putting together an RFP so we can go out to bid eventually, what project or building is that?
Those are the 3 buildings that I had given when we went out for we went out to hire a contract. I mean, we hired a architect to do some preliminary work, and they provided us a drawing for the aviation. I think I gave you the drawings. There was 3 buildings. There was the aviation and the 2.
John, I thought you were dreaming of something else.
No.
So it's okay, I understand now.
Mr. Hatem?
Mr. Lavoy, you said you were going to relocate electrical for one of those classrooms downstairs. What are we going to do with electrical?
No, we're not moving the shop, just a storage area that they have. Yep, just some of the, they have 3 storage areas, so we're going to get them to organize a little better. Well, not that they're not organized, but we're going to consolidate even more and move some. They have some electrical boxes and some conduit and some of that, but we do have another smaller space that we can move that to, so we can utilize that for the classroom.
Anything else?
I met with all the, I met with the carpentry, the construction guys who are impacted by it. We met with them earlier this week to talk about, well, we've been having ongoing conversations, but we did a final meeting to make sure everybody was on the same page on the changes in the moves and how it's going to impact people. And if they thought it wasn't going to work for them, I wanted them to express that, and so we could kind of try to problem solve it. And so we resolved all that this week.
Anything further? Robotics grant, John?
So we got an anonymous
Easy for you to say.
Grant. We got the mysterious person who has given us a $250,000 grant, which they'd like us to use to purchase robotic equipment. So I wanted to inform the committee that we're in the process of identifying how we would spend that grant. And once we determine how we're going to spend that grant, they said they would have another $500,000 that they would like to give us but we have to determine how we would spend that. And Susan Amano, we met with the CTE staff to determine what are some possibilities for $500,000. And so we sent them another proposal with bullet points. Part of it was they wanted us to look at internships and other things to help get young people started in the job market. So we sent them another proposal this week for another $500,000. So that was the second one we got this year, because we had gotten the $500,000 from Fidelity earlier this year from another corporation. So we've been very fortunate this year to get some support for our programs.
Yes, so. Very good. Legislative breakfast, Superintendent?
So as you all know, we had our legislative breakfast last Friday, opportunity to kind of show off the 90% done 4 wins. But I had the opportunity to talk to our legislators about where we are as a school today, where we hope to, some of our plans and future thinking for moving forward, and also getting some legislative support for some of the legislative bills that are out there. We're also going to be looking for some we may be looking to put out a bill to help us purchase the airport hangar. That may take some legislation in order to look at our charter, because it may not be possible. We're not sure yet. The attorneys are looking at it, but we may need some legislation. So I've had some conversations with our legislators about that also after the event. But I thought the event went very well, had a lot of feedback from people who were there, and a lot of new legislators who were looking to do a tour of the school because they've never been in the building. So that really worked out well in establishing some new relationships and getting any support we may be looking to get from our legislators moving forward. So I thought it was successful, and it was great to have many of our school committee members at the event, and be able to connect with our legislators as well.
Okay, excuse me, moving on. Marketing updates, John?
So I really haven't done a lot with marketing in terms of strategies yet, although we are doing a few things. As you know, we do our biweekly newsletter. We're trying to expand that. Right now it goes out to parents, faculty. We are looking to send it out to our advisory committee on a regular basis. And one of the other things is to send to our news outlets copies of that every time we put one together. So the Rumbo, the Eagle Tribune, so we're reaching out to them to see if they would be willing to accept it and see if there's anything newsworthy they'd put in the Tribune for us. We do have our marketing company, but we're thinking about putting out a new RFP to look for a new marketing agent. Haven't made any final decisions about that. Next step at this point is I'd like to put a marketing committee together so that I have a team of people that can work and try to determine. I wasn't at this point looking to hire anybody full-time for marketing, but try to utilize who we have on staff now, and maybe somebody that can do some specialty work as we do that we have now when we have a special article, or as we do with the company we have doing some of that work now. I think the challenge for us has not been that they're not willing to do certain things, but for us, being so busy with so many things, not staying focused on just marketing as much as we should, although we've tried to do a little better this year. We still have Cassandra doing a lot of work on it, and Eleanor, the lady that we were talking about earlier, is working on marketing material as well. We're in the process of hiring a new company to do our website. I think Susan's in an interview Thursday, I think. Is it Thursday you're meeting with a company? Friday. They're meeting Friday with a company looking to hire a company to redo we've done some work already preparing for that, both in a lot of the writings completed already. Eleanor has rewritten a lot of the material that's in our website as well. And Cassandra's putting some material together, but we're meeting with a company that we feel will be can do some exceptional, because we feel like it's important to upgrade our website and do a better job than we've done in the past. So new policies and procedures, and using it and staying on top of everything we put on the website, we're putting in place as well.
Good. Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes, if you do put together a marketing committee at some point, I'm volunteering myself. But far more important than that, is there any way that we could bring together marketing and alumni relations so that it's under one umbrella? I feel there are two areas that we fail miserably at, and perhaps we could copy some of the other schools that do it very well. I'd use Central Catholic as a prime example, where their alumni know every single thing that's happening. And if, I use our golf thing as an example. Every Reggie alumni should be fighting for a place on that golf course, but we just don't seem to have the vehicle. So I guess I'm asking that we look at the possibility of combining the effort or tying the effort in together. Thank you.
Mr. Hatem?
Mr. Lavoy, we know what the marketing, our in-house people are doing, and that's fantastic. My question was, and I think Frank backed me up on this, was what is the marketing company that we're paying doing for us? Now, I understand you're gonna get rid of them, so I guess they haven't been doing too much.
I don't think it's so much that they have, we haven't reached out to them. They do one article a month they're supposed to do one article a month for us that goes in the Tribune. And they also do special projects if we have special projects. But we haven't given them enough, like we haven't brought them in and said we'd like an article on this or they have done some, but we haven't ourselves put enough effort specifically to communicate and work with them. It's not so much that they're not willing, I think it's more on us that we haven't brought them in to have the conversations and do the work that we needed to do to get more articles out there. So I think, trying to put a little more effort in that, it's probably something that we can look at. But of course, and it's just really been a matter of time with people focus on so many other things that we haven't, sat specifically. We do, the athletic stuff, and we do some stuff. And I think we've done more. We're doing more than we ever did before. But that outside communication, we need to do a bit more of, connecting more with the agencies that are out there, the news agencies that are out there, better job connecting with them and doing a better job with that. So it's hard when you don't have someone that's specifically that's their job, although Cassandra does some of that, but we also have her doing 15 other things as well sometimes. So she supports the staff on a lot of educational stuff as well. So it's just not been our major focus.
Principal Zelinski?
I just wanted to add that recently there's like a group. It's actually New England School Public Relations Association. There's a New England chapter, and it's public relations specifically targeted for schools. And so we just became a member of it. It was very short money, and they're having an event in April, and we have we have a couple people from the staff, Cassandra being one of them, attending that. And part of what they do is they've already shared a folder which has some materials, and it's about marketing, but it's also about communications. And they even gave us a shell of like a communications plan, so like a plan for the year. And I know that it is a lot, but I would agree with the superintendent. We've had Cassandra, and she's really done some more targeting. But in terms of getting ahead of it, it's like when we have an event or we have a plan, it's a lot for one person. We have other members of our administration, like our student information officer, Isabel Joya. She also has a responsibility to reach out to families in a different way. So we're looking to find out if it's not one position, can we harness this organization and kind of get some professional development? And what I really like about it is it's specifically for schools. So, I'll be updating the superintendent once some members of our school attends, and then we can report out on what we learn.
Mr. Cirillo?
I'm going to thank you for that update. I think that's something very important. And I'm going to echo what Tom, in Maryland, you bring up a very interesting point about combining the two together with the alumni, because there's a lot of alumni that come to the school, that came to the school, that have no idea or how to join the Alumni Association. We're a beautiful gem, but we're only a gem in our own house, because nobody on the outside really knows what's going on. And when we're looking to expand, this is the reason why this is so important, because we have to show the communities what we're doing, and why it's important for them to partner with us in helping us expand. But in order to do that, we have to do a better job with the marketing. It might be bringing another person part-time to work with staff that we already have here. I don't know what the solution is. It's something that would have to be looked. And we already got Marilyn, who's definitely on board on jumping on the committee.
Anything further? Vivian?
I'll echo the same thing that Francisco and Marilyn mentioned. And I even have talked with the superintendent in creating a tour that is specifically for alumni. You know, we tend to do tours for elected officials, and I think it would be nice that a lot of the graduates, like myself, and the only reason why I'm even aware as to the amazing changes that we have going on is because I'm a committee member. But had it not been for that, there's so many graduates who have not stepped foot in the school, and I think it would be an amazing opportunity for them to get involved if they come and visit and just kind of reminisce and get to experience the amazing things that we have going on in the school. And I think if we start creating events like that, it would potentially bring in more foot traffic and alumni to sign up if that's a way to attract. And I know that was also a good pointer to hire graduates, you know, as potential teachers or shop teachers, which I know that was something that we were struggling with at one point. And I definitely wanted to touch on the whole marketing thing. I feel like we've touched on this before when I've expressed my interest in us going a little bit harder in social media, considering that is one of the main methods of communication. And for us not to take advantage of that, it's sad on our part. So I definitely think that hiring maybe someone part-time to help us revamp. I do honestly agree. You know, I love everything we do, but I believe that we need to revamp the way we market ourselves, but then also like the communication that we're giving out. When we're posting something, it just needs to come across a little bit more streamlined, more cohesive, more modern, and I think we're falling short in that. So if it takes by hiring, I'm not sure if when you say new RFP to hire a new company, is this just solely for they're in charge of like the news, like the Eagle Tribune, or like what other?
So it might be.
What other responsibilities would this marketing company have?
Yeah, so doing exactly what you said, what kind of social media should be utilizing social media more, and what should that look like, and how should that come together, all of that. So it may not necessarily be a company that, like, we've had companies that come in before that have talked about that in terms of doing more work with social media and using platforms that we don't use now to do a lot of marketing that we could start to utilize. And it's not so much just for admissions, but also when we need support if we want to put an addition on the school and we need to get community support, how do we use those avenues in order to get the right kind of support? So if you're in that world all the time, people are looking for what's coming out all the time at GLTS. No, so having someone that has an expertise in that might be the way to go. So putting out an RFP looking for that kind of an expertise, as well as standard type media work as well. So, that's why I thought if we had other voices besides ourselves, if we had committee people in the school that are interested, there may be people out in our building. It's amazing, like we had staff that were at the talent show who knew they had all that talent. Might have, might have the same thing going on with, some expertise when it comes to working out marketing ideas and moving forward.
Okay. Mrs. Fitzgerald?
I would suggest that right now, Sue got me all excited when she told me about this new group format that we are now members of. seeing what they have, using Cassandra as a channel, a vehicle to get all this information. And maybe by the end of June, we could come up, if a committee is being formed, we could come up with the best way to go forward, whether it's combining two things, whether it's doing it in-house with talent we might not even know we have, with a stipend-type position, whatever. But instead of just saying, oh, we should do this, we should do that, I really do believe we need to figure it out separate from sitting here and throwing out ideas. And I think starting with this new group would be fabulous.
Anything further? Okay, principals report, please.
I'll make this quick. I know that the report may look a little dated because it was a report that was deferred from February, so it's kind of a combination. But I did want to just share our quarter 2 update, which soon I will be able to compare it to quarter 3. Also, we've talked a little bit about elective surveys. I wanted to just briefly share the results and let you know what the next steps are in terms of that process. I won't go through the whole thing, but I did share with you our school improvement mid-cycle assessment. So the school improvement plan that you all approve every year, we had our faculty council go through it. We asked for staff input and also the school council and the administrative team. It's almost kind of like our own formative assessment on where we are in our school improvement plan so far. And again, we always want to try to get the most. And then I just want to give a brief update in spring MCAS testing, which was today. Again, quarter 2 results, they're there for you to see. We start off with the honor roll, and then we have all of the numbers for our students that are failing with 1 or more failing grades. Sometimes it can look pretty stark with a Q1 comparison compared to Q2. Quarters are fairly short timeframes when you look at a vocational 1 week on, 1 week off. A lot of the times quarter 1 is students getting into. Quarter 2 is really when they get into the curriculum. So I did include a comparison. One thing that is notable is our grade 10 students. They have a fairly low failure rate. We look at grade 9 and 10. Those are the students that we've been working with the BAR, Building Assets Reducing Risks, and we're really trying to continue and looking for ways next year to continue those, what we refer to as cohort meetings, where groups of academic content teachers, counselors, other specialists meet together to talk about kids, which is really the way you can get some results. We've had some challenges this year with the new schedule, but you can still see that some of those 9-10 results are still looking good. So again, these numbers have already probably changed because we're within quarter 3 now. We also note some of the students that came off the failure list. Some students are still failing the same course, and 183 students were added to the failure list. I know that Superintendent Lavoie also spoke to you about the student success plans last time and how it was important. So you can see that referenced here in terms of our action plan. So when you look at the next slide is actually, we did a year over year because we want to kind of see what's that looking like and kind of look at the trends to find out if we can determine exactly what's going on. Is it an academic content? Is it within students coming back, like what's really going on? So we're looking at all that behind the data. I also want to share, this is already all happening, and actually pretty soon we'll have results. But, we were concerned with the number of failures that went up. We had a whole plan where teachers really worked to develop success plans, guidance worked, and we have added an academic support session on Monday that we weren't offering, and we targeted specifically those students on these failure lists. We also ensured that all families that had a student on this list got a particular message from the superintendent and I outlining this plan of action and asking them to contact us should they have questions. We've been following up quarter three. What we'll do is when quarter three results come out, we'll be looking again, and all the administrators, in terms on the academic side, have also been working individually with teachers to support them and answer any questions. We also have been meeting with students regularly, just to kind of make sure that they support them. So even though quarter two is beyond us, it was in the report, and I still wanted to share it because I like to make sure we share that. Elective surveys, I mentioned earlier that we were going to, as part of our schedule change, we were going to be looking at a way to provide some electives for our students where we believe that they could benefit from, especially in the 11th and 12th grade. We have a multi-year plan for this. The first stage this year was to have the seminar courses, which you know about. We surveyed our students, and I believe I discussed this a little bit. You can see that the survey, it's like kind of not interested. Some of the things that students are very interested in are things like criminal justice. They're also they're interested in personal finance. So sorry. And, also psychology was another one. So we have those potential elective offerings, and what we did is we actually surveyed them for the next year, because again, as I said, this is a multi-phase plan. And some of the things that we surveyed students about that will take longer because it has budget implications, space implications, you can see that students did express interest in having foreign Spanish, also fine arts, music appreciation, and even Spanish too. So this is kind of for our planning purposes, but I wanted to share really what our students are expressing interest in. The third phase of this is something that the superintendent has talked about, and we believe is in part is in terms of offering electives to look at how we can do some integration with the shops. So are there some electives that are specifically aligned with some of the disciplines? Blueprint reading could be an example of that. The superintendent gave me a list of about 100 other ones that he'd like to see in terms of electives. But we wanted to phase this in slowly. But one thing that we're hearing from our students is even within the academics for the 11th and 12th graders, they are looking for a little bit of choice. We are going to keep electives out of grade 9 and 10 for now, because we're still monitoring all of our students coming back from the pandemic, experienced learning loss, and we want to make sure that we have a solid foundation for them. So right now, we've identified the electives from the surveys. We can't offer all of them, but we've identified the electives that we're going to offer. Additionally, you don't want to call them electives because they're not. There'll be additional courses that will run simultaneously with these in terms of other courses that students might need in terms of literacy or math support. And those we didn't survey the students on if they wanted those. So I will not go through this for sake of time, but if you want to go through and if you have any questions or feedback, the superintendent and I'd be happy to answer any. Again, this is our school improvement plan, and I went through every single goal and action step, and still the teacher in me, I highlighted where we are, and so you can see whether or not we're still in the attempt, planning, or achieving. Our school improvement plan, as you know, is always a pretty lofty goal, so we might not get to all of it, and we'll probably continue a lot of things on it. But we're making slow and steady progress. And finally, I just wanted to share that we are in the MCAS season, so to speak. Our students started off today. We had our 10th graders. We had a delayed opening for the 9th, 11th, and 12th graders. We had our 10th graders participate in the first day of ELA. And I will say it was pretty amazing. We had all students but 5. We only had 5 students missing, which is pretty incredible. There was a few a few glitches on Pearson's end, but it is a huge logistical task that gets even more complicated as we change schedules and we have room. So the administrative team has been working really, really hard to make sure that we have the most supportive environment for the test that we can have. We did have grade 10 staff, the ELA staff and other staff. We did have a short, we call it a student information, I like to refer to it as a pep rally. No one really likes an MCAS pep rally except me. But we did meet with all of the grade 10 students yesterday afternoon. Part of it was, just letting them know logistics, what they should expect for the test. But the other part was really sending them a message, a clear message that we believe in them. And so we also encourage them to believe in themselves. So it was great to have that back. We haven't done that because of the pandemic in the last couple years. But we wanted all of the grade 10 students to know that we believe in them, and we wanted also to recognize all the grade 10 staff, because even though it's an English test, an ELA test, it really is a test that it's every class, every shop, every experience. You're reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and you're getting prepared for that test. So we feel pretty good for tomorrow, day 2. And that's my report.
Mr. Cirillo?
Thank you, Principal Selinsky. Your reports are always very visual. I'm curious in the electives. I know you said they're going to be part of the curriculum. And I've seen the high ones, some of them that I probably would never have thought of. What is the curriculum for world mythology? And we got 60% of people students that were interested in that. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so what we did is we took our current seminar courses and we asked our teachers if they could align enough to the standards to expand it. So that class would come out of the English department, and the curriculum would be built. It's not built yet. So if we choose that one, we would be building a curriculum directly aligned to the standards.
Anything further? Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
I should have known.
Okay, I just want to compliment Sue for she said it brings out the teacher in her on her mid-season assessment of the improvement plan. I just think it's great by showing the status and where it is, so keep that teacher in you alive.
Thank you, there's a lot of red still.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. District Committee priorities, see none. Policies, this will require a vote. Chair will accept a motion on accepting Section B, BDH consultants to the school committee.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? New business? See nothing here at this time. Table matters, the chair will accept a motion to remove concussion, that's the third time, concussion policy from the table matters. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. New business, go ahead. Sorry.
I would like to add, did you put your mic on there? Sure. This is where we add stuff for the next agenda, right?
If you'd like to, yes.
Okay. So I would like to see exit interviews.
Thank you.
Exit interview for that we had done for the last year or two.
Did you get that, Joe? How much of John? How much of those can we legally share, though? Probably no names, right?
I don't know how much information we can give on interview. We could probably give some overall information.
Right.
like
I don't know
what
if
were
we. I
some
don't know
of
if we
the
can give
comments,
names.
What were some of the concerns that we've received?
That's
from
what I
the
want to
interview?
see. I want to see concerns. Whether we are working towards some of those concerns and an exit interview that we are getting.
Yeah, I can ask Janice to put something together an overview of some of the comments over the last year or so.
Right, I just don't think we can use names. That's
No,
all.
we wouldn't
Okay?
do
That's fine.
Okay. No, I don't. Anything further?
Yes, one
Yes.
more.
Oh, sure, go ahead, sorry.
So back into the failures for that Mr. Lincoln reported and the conversation we had on the last meeting. I actually read an article in the Eagle Tribune talking about a pass on the Supreme Court where parents can now sue the schools for the school passing students. Students that are only learning middle school grades, yes. So it brought me back to the conversation we have in last meeting, which you just brought up, and I can see the failure rates, like in ninth grade, there's 70 students. So again, I know you both mentioned that as by law we cannot expel students for not, which we talk about students that we give help, all the help that we can. And I know you're working on that, and that you mentioned that, and you reported that, and you're working with the teachers. But there are students that don't want to be helped, and they are a problem, and that's the reality. So based on this this article that just came into the world, I guess, I want to see that law that you mentioned, where we cannot expel students, and I don't know, if there's any potential that we make changes on that.
It's a regulation more than a law, right?
Yeah, the law doesn't say we can't fail. It says if we expel a student, oh, I'm sorry. If we fail, if we expel a student, then we are responsible. There are very strict regulations on why you can, what you can expel a student for, but if you do expel a student, then we're liable for their education.
And I
to fund their
believe,
education.
I'm sure that if we give them all the help that they need, and we still I'm not able to get them to where we need them, we should do something different. That's what I think. So I understand the law. I mean, I would like to see the law more in detail, and then what can we do about that? Because, I mean, we don't want to be sued.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would agree 100% with you that if students are continuing to fail, then we need to do something different. And that is part of the process that we're doing. So particularly this last term, when we had we actually had full faculty conversation about this, that when a student does fail, the starting point is understanding what's the reason for that student failing, understanding, getting to the root cause of why that student is failing, so that we then know how to proceed. So we are in that process of trying to figure that out, and we're trying to address it in different ways, in new ways, because obviously in some cases it's not working the way we hoped it would work. So we will never, give up on trying to figure out if this isn't working, how can we do it differently? So you're absolutely right about that.
All set? We all set? Okay, now back to the concussion policy. Chair will accept the motion to take it off the table of matters.
So move.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair will accept the motion to accept the concussion policy.
So move.
Discussion, questions, comments? John, you have anything to add to it? No?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? I'm sorry. Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't see it, sorry. Pardon me. Wasn't intentional. I know. Well, not intentionally. Not intentionally.
I hope not.
There must be something low.
I have to go back to that. See, we're going backwards. Oh, my God. I lost.
It's under report of superintendent.
Oh, okay, it was after Miss
Yes.
Richardson.
Yeah.
That's why I'm getting lost. I'm confused. Yeah, I do have a question. So, at the beginning of the whole procedure, it says that if there's an accident or injury, call the nurse. So my question is, and I hope the answer is what I'm thinking, do we have a first aid team in the school? That's one question, and I'll continue after that.
Is
You
that
answer
something the
that.
principal would answer? First aid team?
Can you share a little bit more?
So, I mean, if we start, call the nurse, right? It's the first after the session one. So it says if there's an accident or an injury, call the nurse, and or radio then or to bring them to the scene. My question is, do we have a first aid team?
So I think in terms of who would respond when you call the nurse, we communicate regularly. So typically, say for example, there was an accident, you would have a nurse, you'd probably have two nurses. You would also have Officer Milligan. So Officer Milligan is our police officer in the building. So he is traveling. We have a member of administration, depending on what the accident or the injury is. We would know, like they would triage, but if we do have kind of that team. The other thing I would say is that part of our crisis response protocols, which we are working on, is to build that. But say, for example, if it was a mental health crisis, if the nurses would respond, the resource officers would respond, members of the administrative team would respond, and we would have like a social worker. So depending, so I would say yes, we have kind of that first aid team, if that makes sense.
That answered part of the question, because that's what I'm looking for. Do we have a group of people in the building that are first aid certified and CPR, obviously, because some cases will need CPR before the ambulance come in. We need to figure out how to get somebody, try to keep them alive, because it could happen, you never know. So my question back, it goes into that. Do we have a first aid team in-house that will respond, that collectively will respond to any emergency that we have? And I know what you're answering, but what you're saying is that there are people through the building that have the ability to give help, because they are, I mean, a police officer is certified, I suppose they all are. Nurses are certified. But do we have a team that we say, okay, if something happens, we're gonna call a number? You know how we call 911? There's always an internal number in organizations that are large number of people. We have a number that we call, and then, that group of people will go and see what's going on. First aid team. A crisis is a first aid team. Because it could be a minor thing, but you don't know that until you go to where the problem is.
I wouldn't call them first aid team, I'd call them first responders. So we have protocols and procedures. If there's an incident or an accident in the building, a call's made, and then we all administrators also have walkie-talkies, and we communicate immediately through the phone, through walkie-talkies. And so we do have procedures and protocols. If something happens in the shop, the first call may go out to the nurse, and then the nurse may also, our security often is involved, and they reach out to what other assistance is needed once it's determined what the situation is. Sometimes it's an ambulance that's called right away. Even at times, it could be anybody that has CPR experience if they're in the area, if we needed that. But people are trained in CPR. All of our athletic team is trained in CPR. But it's first responders and it's procedures and protocols that everybody is taught the first day of school. We go through all our procedures and protocols at the beginning of the year so that everybody remembers. They also have a document in their classroom that identifies what the protocols and procedures are, depending on the emergency, what needs to happen. So, but it's not I wouldn't call it a first aid team. I would call it our first responder protocols and procedures that we utilize. So there are people that have the background experience in first aid and CPR beyond even the nurses' background.
And we do collect that information, so we have a list of who is CPR certified, so we collect that. And I know that the athletic director, Mr. Nelson, and I were talking about even this year expanding it because he always has coaching training, but even having some time during professional development, opening it up for any other staff member that would want to get trained. But we do have that listing.
I would like to see that protocol, if you can bring it. 'Cause
Sure.
I mean, hopefully we'll never have a major incident, but when we do, we want to make sure that we have the right group of people to make sure that that student or that person in emergency is taken care of immediately before help arrives, the actual professional help arrives. Thank you.
Mr. Cirillo?
And along those lines, in light of the recent shootings, and I know that there's a lot of talks about amping up the emergency protocol for active shooters to make sure that students and staff are more aware, and it becomes almost like second nature. So, it's called, Alice Plan. That way, we're making sure that we communicate with the town and have a couple of incidents, making sure that also that that if our system goes off, that the communication is going from the school to bless you, to the proper departments within the city. Because I know we have an officer here, but if the officer's on the other side of the thing, we'll make sure that the alarm system's working, students know if they need to be evacuated, where they evacuate to, or if they need to secure in place, what the process is, as well for the teachers and the staff. And I know that was on the news party yesterday or even this morning of how we should be doing it a little bit more frequently.
I think we had a motion on the table, right, if I'm correct, and a second. Concession, the concussion, yeah. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Personnel considerations, resignations, I see none. Leave of absence, retirements of Mr. Victor Martinez, social studies teacher, effective 6/30/24. Mr. Tim Cusack, guidance counselor, effective 2/9/24. Appointments, Ms. Mariani Encarnacion, career tradition specialist, evening program, effective March 20th, 23. And Ms. Courtney Moran, data and assessment specialist, effective 3/20/23. The following are postings, ladies and gentlemen, that need to be voted on. John, why don't we do three at a time, please?
Boys basketball head coach, annual position.
Your microphone, John. No, sorry.
Sorry. Boys basketball head coach, annual position. Golf head coach, annual position. Auto collision instructor per local 1707, school year contract 2023, replacement position. Those are three.
Yep, those are the three. Second, discussion? All All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Continue, please.
Biotechnology instructor, never filled, per 1707, school year 23-24, replacement position. IT hardware and operation systems instructor, local 1707 contract, school year 22-23, replacement position. Auto collision instructor, due to a waiver, replacement position.
Have a motion, please? Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Robotics, please?
Robotics automation instructor, due to a waiver, replacement position. Biotechnology instructor, due to a waiver, replacement position. Engineering instructor, due to waiver, replacement position.
Motion, please? Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And wrap it up, John.
Environmental science instructor, due to waiver, replacement position. LTS physical education instructor, grade 9 through 10. Tentative dates end of May to the end of the school year, replacement position. Freshman assessment test proctors and support staff personnel for freshman assessment testing, May 6, 2023, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., 30 test proctors, 6 registration staff, 2 parent liaison, 1 custodian, 1 school nurse, and 1 dog. That's it. $250 stipend, annual position.
Have a motion, please? Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Future agenda items? No? Exec? Oh, yeah, we did it, okay. Sure, we can move that to the future.
It's always confusing.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we can move that, please? I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
With the three issues that you brought up. Executive session, will there be a need for one, John? No?
No, we didn't get anything from them.
No further business, ladies and gentlemen. The chair will accept the motion to, oh, no, I'm sorry, there is one further business. The April 1st meeting, next Monday, 3rd. It'll be the 3rd, April 3rd. First business day in April is when we have to meet. What, do you want to do it morning, noon, night? Do a night meeting? Yes, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
I am unavailable during the day. I am available from 4 o'clock on.
Okay, do we want to do 5:30, 6 o'clock? It's usually very short. It's only, selecting the positions and see, huh? Want to do 5:30? Okay. We'll do 5:30 at 3rd. We should have our new member all sworn in by then. Okay, at this time, the chair will accept, excuse me?
From North Andover.
Not the end of it. You're being elected today. Being elected today. Unopposed. All those in favor of adjournment? Anyone not? Stay. There is, but you're not invited. You don't want to be invited, man. They're boring. Thank you very much. Oh, could you?
Yeah.
These are agendas.